can I have another wine?
You're listening to the Giggle Gang podcast.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
If you want it, just come get it.
A Giggle Gang podcast.
Just be myself.
For fuck's sake.
You know, sometimes people pay me to say ridiculous shit, and sometimes I just say it for free.
Jesus Christ.
You're listening to the Giggle Gang podcast.
It was fantastic, it was wonderful, it was everything I thought it would be, it was everything I didn't think it would be. I had the best time, but I never want to do it ever again.
Really?
Yeah, that's
done with it?
It was just, for me, the show was sort of like, it was a vanity project. It was never going to be anything more than it was. I was really happy with it. I was really happy with the experience, but it's a box ticking thing. It's a bucket list thing. I'm done with it now. I loved it. But
So had you been before?
yeah, I'd been probably like 2 years and performed and just done open spots on other people's shows. This is the first time I've been front and centre. This is your show, which was fun, but when you're doing quite a niche show in a gay bar for a gay audience, you can't advertise in the same way. So I think I did 2 hours on the Royal Mile and I was like, no, this is not going to work for me. So I had to find other ways to promote. So it was like going around any gay bars, any saunas, any
saunas?
Yeah.
You went to gay saunas and handed out flyers to people?
Yes, I did.
Tell me what happened, please.
Oh, well, no, that was literally into reception. Hi, I've got this show, and you do
okay.
that.
I thought you were like walking through.
No, that's the better one. I went to a fucking cruise. It was the cruising spots.
Hang on, what's cruising?
So it's when people go and have sex in bushes. So I went to cruising spots during the day, I'll just say, and like pinned flyers up on the
Hang on. We need to hang on. Cruising is like dogging?
Yes, basically.
Okay.
But instead of like having cars and being in a car park, it's like in the woods.
Does this happen for straight people?
Yeah, I guess so.
Is there like fucking spots for straight people?
Well, that's more dogging, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, but there's like cruising spots for gays where they're like well known. So
and you'll just go there and like there might be someone else there and neither of you.
There's somebody lurking in a bush.
And you just rock up and just go, I'm here to cruise.
Apparently, yeah. I mean, I will say I've never actually gone cruising.
Okay.
But I found out where they all were and went
From who?
online. But I was working in a gay bar, so I was asking to people, where are the cruising spots? And they were like, well, it's this place and it's this place.
And when you got there, what did you find?
There was nothing there. There was like nothing there.
Did you ask at the beginning of every show, has anyone come from the popular cruising spots?
There was a few like condoms and stuff left in bushes and stuff.
Okay.
Because sexual health places as well go to them as well and leave condoms there. So I just basically pinned flyers to trees.
And your flyers, you with your hands in your head, was unbearable. Barrie Heap. Does it mention gay anywhere in the flyer?
Camp comedic comedy.
Okay, right.
So they were out there and they were there and I left them there. But the other one was I went on to Grindr and set up a new profile. And I'm sure you're familiar with what Grindr is.
Yes.
And set up a new profile. And I was like, okay, Unbearable, I'm on at this time, come along, it'd be great to see. And genuinely, the people that I chatted to on there were like, oh, this looks really good, I didn't know this was happening. Great, I'll come along. And everybody that did come along never came on their own. They always brought 2 or 3 friends with them.
Really?
So that really worked in terms of promoting the show.
I tried to do the same on Tinder, but it didn't really have the same effect. It's just me and a cocked hat calling women cunts, and they didn't really appreciate it.
Yeah, that might not work quite the same. It didn't backfire, but I was staying in a hostel because it was the cheapest way to do the Edinburgh run. And I was staying in a hostel and I got in at the end of the night, it was like 4 in the morning. And I was just like, oh, I'm so knackered, and sat down on a couch bit and went on my phone and somebody popped up straight away on Grindr and they were like, oh, I've seen the posters for your show. I think I'm going to come along tomorrow. And I was like, oh, cool, yeah, that'd be fun. It'd be really nice to see you. And then he was like flirting a little bit, and I was like, oh, well, you know, you're pretty cute, so hopefully I get a chance to see you tomorrow. I'm going to go to bed now because it's 4 a.m. I walked into the dorm room and the guy who had just been chatting to on ground was on the bunk bed next to me. Like, literally next to me, and I'm like, okay. Now, you know... it's
on the same level as well?
On the same level, both on ground floor. Or,
bottom bunk.
Yeah, bottom bunk.
Yeah, ground floor.
I didn't want to use bottom bunk because of the connotations. So I was like that, okay. So I basically just crawled into my bed underneath the duvet and got undressed, and I was like, please let, like, you know, the hostel burn down in the night.
So did he see you come in as well?
He did see me come in. His face was lit up as well because he was still on ground.
Chatting to other people.
Yeah. But no, and he came along actually on the Saturday and was really sweet, really nice. And yeah, really enjoyed the show, and then told other people to come as well. So
that's good. That's good fun.
Yeah, it was great.
When was the last time you stayed in a hostel?
Oh, that would have been Edinburgh, but...
No, before that.
Before that, I sort of do it fairly regularly.
Okay.
So, like, if I go down to, like, London for a few days, I'll do that. Mm-hmm. I'm coming to the point now, I'm 39,
okay.
So I'm 40 next week, and I'm coming to the point now where I'm just starting to struggle with it now, that
okay.
I'm like, I want my own space. But I'm like, while I can keep doing it, because it's the cheapest way to stay when you're going off to see something. This was difficult though, because this was like 9 days I stayed in there, which is a stretch. I think the most I've done before is like 4, maybe 7.
And how many people in the room with you?
Oh, well, it's a one called The Hostel, groundbreaking name, obviously, and it's like 21 people in a room.
Fuck yeah. That's amazing. So when I first came to Manchester, I stayed in, you know, Holdfast, where Wormhole Comedy is now, and above that is the Hatters Hostel.
Yeah.
I stayed in a 26-person dorm room in the Hatters Hostel.
I've stayed there.
Right.
I've stayed there.
It's like a prison cell, right?
Yeah.
It's just bang, 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 just everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? This was in December.
Yeah.
There's no heating in that building at all. The showers, there's no hot water, so it's only cold water. Yeah. I stayed there for 6 days until I found a house, until I found this house. You can imagine how fucking happy I was to like get into like a new build, fucking beautiful flat.
Yeah.
But it was just horrible, just simply the worst.
What I used to do when it was like Pride in Manchester, I used to book into the Hatters.
Yeah.
Because it was like, right, if you want to stay out late night to get back to Warrington, which is obviously where I am, it's like 30-40 quid in a taxi, and I'm like, or you can stay over for 12. So I always used to do that and just stay for the weekend and, like, you know, stumble into bed at stupid o'clock.
Whenever it is.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about Pride. Did you go this year?
No, not this year, because I was like right off the back of coming back from Edinburgh, and then I went and did Tribfest for 4 days. So it was like insane this year, because I literally was in a hostel for 9 days, and I was back home for 2 days, during which I did the Dark Horse in Warrington. I was fucked. I was dead on my feet for that show. And then I went and lived in a tent for 4 days.
And that wasn't really a good time for you, was it, at Tribfest?
Oh no, I love Tribfest.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
I thought all your stuff got rolled.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what? Tribfest was... I love it. It's possibly one of my favourite things about comedy that I do. No, like literally... you've been talking to Sean. Yeah. So literally one night I got into bed and I was asleep, and I tried to charge my phone and it hadn't quite thing, so I just left it on the mattress next to me, and then somebody had come into my tent in the middle of the night.
How big was the tent?
So this was like a 4-man tent, and just me in it. Okay. And he kind of zips up, and I sort of looked at him and I was like, "Who are you? You shouldn't be in my tent." And he kind of did this whole drunk thing of, "Oh, this is the wrong tent," and I was like, "Right, okay," and had gone. And it was only the next day that
you didn't open your tent and nicked your phone?
Yeah. He'd come in through like a side door on the tent, and then must have just...
How many doors doors are on the tent? Is there just one entrance?
I had like 27 doors on this tent. No, there was 10.
I used to get in through the roof.
Yeah.
I'd zip line into bed. It was a 4-man tent.
That was what happened. So we were getting more like beer tokens the next day, and somebody said something about people going into tents while nobody had been in there in the night. And then just next to us, somebody had found a wallet. Kath Marvley, in fact, it was. Yeah, had found a wallet. No cash in it, but obviously all the cards and all the ID. So I was like, ooh, that's a bit odd. So I was like, I'll just go back and check where my phone is. Because the battery was dead. I wasn't intending on using it for the rest of the weekend. And then I couldn't find it anywhere. So I turned the tent upside down and I was like, it's definitely not there. So I went down and I went to report to the site office and just to basically say, look, I know you've had reports of this. My phone is now missing. And they were like, oh, right, okay, can you describe it? And I'm like, yeah, it's like a black phone. It's a Huawei. Like, because if China really want to hack me, I'm not that interesting. I don't care. I'd rather have
All
that.
they're going to see is saucy conversations on Grindr.
Yeah.
Promoting an Edinburgh show.
Which they should come to, by the way. The Chinese government should definitely come.
You'd love it.
Yeah,
I love camp comedy.
Yeah, I'm sure it's everything that their censorship laws would love. But no, so like the guy who was dealing with it came and he was like, can you describe your phone? And I was like, well, yeah, it's this black Huawei phone. And he said, what's on the loading screen? I had to go, there's a picture of Donkey Kong for reasons I'd rather not discuss. And then he just showed me my phone. So basically, they picked my phone up, realised it was dead, realised they couldn't get anything, and just flung it in a field. And then somebody else had found it and handed it in. Now, this all took place within the space of an hour.
Okay. So hang on, what's the point in stealing a phone? Because all you need is a charger, and then that phone becomes... But they wanted it with battery?
I guess so.
Or did they think it was broken?
Maybe they thought it was broken. Who knows?
Oh my God,
Who knows? But literally, they sort of flung it aside, and I was like, "Oh, cool!" I literally got my phone back. It was charged up.
They
charged my phone up for me, and then just went and got another cider, and then carried on. So it was like a lot happened at Tribfest as everything, but as I was kind of saying to people, it all happened within the space of an hour. There was other stuff that went on after that where, Sean was like, we've caught this guy. So he ended up with security and...
They caught the guy stealing phones?
No, they caught... some guy walked past the tent and I was having an afternoon nap and I just heard Kath Marvley just going ape shit at him. At this guy.
Like proper Aussie ape shit.
Yeah. And she's like, fuck off. Now, if anybody's met Kath is the most...
I've never heard Kath swear at
anybody. No, Kath is just the most lovely, most even-mannered individual.
Classic Australian.
And then she went full Aussie on him. She went full Aussie on him, and I was like, oh, God.
God, Kath.
I was like, I'm not sure what's happening here. And then apparently what it was is she'd noticed this guy walking around the campsite looking for stuff, and she thought he was looking into tents. And he said, apparently, I don't understand what you're saying, I'm Portuguese. So then she started speaking to him in Portuguese, which he then didn't understand. She's like, you're not Portuguese, fuck off now. So he went off, and then Sean went to one of the site managers and we've just seen one of these guys. At which point then Sean ends up in the security buggy. They drove to the campsite, he points him out, and they went, he is actually a Portuguese volunteer. And they said to him, what were you doing up there on the tents? And he was like, well, I was litter picking.
So he's searching for rubbish, and Kath told him to go fuck himself, and then Kath speaking what she thinks is Portuguese. Yeah. And he obviously...
So in essence, I'll just say that's Tribfest.
Oh my God. Who books this gig?
Well, Steve Rimmer has booked it for the last few years. What he said to me this year was like, can you recommend some people who do open mic comedy?
Right.
To change it up. So I'd given him probably 10 or 12 names. And that was how we all ended up very drunk in a field. But yeah, it's lovely. I'm going back next year again.
That's funny.
Love it.
Tribfest. And
Yeah.
what is Tribfest?
It's a tribute act festival.
Okay.
So all the people who are on stage and all the people who are on the big main stage are headliners. They are the best tribute acts from across Europe.
Okay.
And they're bloody brilliant. Because when I first heard about it, when I first applied for it, I went, oh, as long as I'm like, in a field with a shit Bon Jovi tribute act on and a beer, it'll be fine. These acts are bloody brilliant. They're amazing.
And what sort of bands are they tributing
So
to?
it's been ABBA, it's been Elvis, it's been The Killers, AC/DC. The first year that I was there was a Meatloaf act who sounded like Brian Griffin from Family Guy singing Meatloaf, and once you'd heard it you couldn't unhear it. It was just so good.
You should have seen Meatloaf at the AFL Grand Final in Australia. No one wanted him to be there, but he's on the mic and he was like, I will do anything for love, and he's just improvising his own fucking music.
I love that.
And everyone was just like, shut the fuck up, Meatloaf. Like, it was so bad.
Yeah.
And at the end he was like, that's not good night. It's like, it was just off his fucking head.
It's one of those, that's just noise.
Yeah.
It's no longer. That's no longer anything.
Well, Barry, you've come here for one reason.
Yes.
Well, there were a couple of reasons. You've written them down, and at the top of the page, I'm reading upside down, but it does say burlesque.
It does. It does.
The only thing I know about burlesque is that film with Christina Aguilera,
Which is brilliant.
It's a bloody great film. I really enjoyed it.
I mean, it's good in the fact it's shit.
Okay. Well, hang on. Why is it shit?
Because come on, the plot on that, it's Coyote Ugly and something else mashed together.
I can't even remember what the plot was, but all I remember, great dancing and that song, the song.
Well, this is the thing as well. That is a lot of people's knowledge of burlesque, where they kind of go to and they go, oh, well, that's it. Burlesque is the greatest film to contain no burlesque whatsoever.
What?
Yeah.
So what is it then?
So burlesque is basically, it's about the tease and the temptation. It's about almost stripping, basically.
But that's what the burlesque film was, wasn't it?
Well, not really, because if you think about it, they're all in, bras and panties and stuff, and hot pants. They don't actually take anything off through the entire film.
So in burlesque, you're supposed to take it off?
Sometimes.
So the stuff in the film was more tame than what it really is?
It's kind of burlesque themed, I would say.
Okay.
If you're looking for a film which is probably a bit more accurate for burlesque, Cabaret.
Okay.
The Liza Minnelli classic on there. Cabaret is probably a bit more. Yeah, so I mean, burlesque is actually, it's comedy.
Okay.
It's just doing it in a different way. Everything that you're doing in burlesque is a bit saucy.
Yeah.
And a bit of to tantalise, to tease, to show off to people on there.
Okay.
Now, it's all very tongue-in-cheek.
Okay.
That's the idea of it. That, there's, a great looking girl in a fantastic outfit on there who is taking it up a notch and then removing her top.
Okay.
On there.
And is it usually performed to one person, or is it performed on stage to a large group?
It's usually on stage to a bigger group of that. Now, it doesn't, I'm going to contradict myself here, it doesn't always involve removing clothes.
Okay.
But there's usually an element of that.
Okay.
Even if you're taking off a glove, a hat, the way that you're doing it is very precise.
Right, okay.
And as the
Why are they wearing gloves?
Well, because it's sexy.
Okay.
Gloves are sexy.
Really?
Yeah, do you not realise this?
No.
So, when you come in for an Arctic ice cold winter and you take off a glove, it's sexy.
Okay.
So, but the way that you would do it as well in burlesque as well.
You don't go in your mouth.
Yeah. Or one finger at a time.
Yeah.
Like all the best things in life, one finger at a time. And that's how you're doing it. Now, the audience are keyed into it because I actually started, before I'd come into comedy, I was emceeing drag and burlesque shows on there.
Okay.
And it's very much different when you're setting the stuff up because the audience have to be in on it. So the more you tease and the more you slowly take off the cloak, you're driving the crowd wild.
Okay.
So they're cheering for you and oh, I'm slowly peeling off the finger of a glove. And everybody's like, whoa, yeah, go! It's like the most groundbreaking thing that they've ever seen.
Are the people watching just stupid, or
No, they're there for a good time.
Right, but why is the removing of the glove one finger at a time?
Because you start with a glove.
Right, okay.
You start with a glove and then it goes to a top.
Okay.
And then it goes to that. And
It goes from the glove straight to the top.
Sometimes. Sometimes it's a hat.
So I watched the last season of RuPaul's Drag Race,
Yes.
right? That's really my only experience with drag.
Yeah.
Except for like the drag queens you see on Canal Street.
Yeah.
But like, I think there's levels to the drag game.
Absolutely. There is absolutely
Because
levels.
the people that I see on Canal Street, I go, fantastic.
Yeah.
You're trying to get people into bar pop. You
Yeah.
do you, okay?
Yeah.
Then there's the ones on the RuPaul's Drag Race that fucking build all their own clothes. They spend hours putting makeup.
Yeah.
It's all sorts of shit going on, and it's like it's a show.
It's
like,
next
wow.
level. It's absolutely
Yeah.
next level. The thing is with drag, it's always what I would say. It's always a production. You know, it's we don't think about what the hell we wear in comedy. Same in burlesque. That it's always going to be different. So when you go out and you do a certain number, you've got a certain costume that goes with that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't travel lightly.
So how do you do a drag and burlesque night? Is there like the burlesque element to drag, or is it?
Yeah. Drag and burlesque, I do feel crossover into it because the sort of the acts that I do, which is under the name of Bear Glitz, I always kind of say it's like a fusion. Because what you don't get in burlesque that often is people lip syncing.
Okay.
Whereas I lip sync everything. So I'm always performing that song as I'm doing it. What you tend to get in drag is a lot of people do lip sync and a lot of people live sing on there. But there's less of the clothing removal or that sort of element. I think you've always got a gimmick in drag. You've always got a cheeky element. You've always got something that you bring into it. You've always got a prop, or something. So that's kind of what I did, is I mashed the two together. How I started was I had a friend who had a drag show in Warrington, which was Penny's Arcade.
Okay.
And I was friends with them. I supported the night, and they kept always going because they knew that I was a performer. I'd done theatre and I'd done all sorts before, and they were like, get up and do something. I was like, drag just isn't for me. Like you say, on it's a production. There's people who spend hours doing the makeup. I don't have the artistry, I don't have the imagination to sit there
all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. But I started just doing glitter beards because that was a thing at the time. So I did the glitter beard and the brow, and I found I can do this in 20 minutes. And that was when I was taking time on it. Now I can do it in 5. So that was how I started performing, and then somebody saw the number that I did, which was really tame. So it was like me in some pinstripe hot pant dungarees, swirling around a giant lollipop, being suggestive with it, and was like, you'd be great on the burlesque scene. And I was like, I know nothing about burlesque. And then I did a show, and then I was like, oh no, I get it, it's fun. At which
So
point,
were you taking your top off?
I wasn't to begin with. At first I was like, oh god, no, I'm not stripping on stage. Like, what do you do? And then I got into it, and then people were like, you can leave more clothes on, you know. Tongue in cheek, of course. But what was really interesting, burlesque is about body confidence as well. So not all the girls who were in the burlesque film, they're all like skinny model dancers. That is not the burlesque scene. There is all sorts of shapes and sizes.
Are you telling me that Hollywood's not real?
Yes.
Get out, Barry, I won't have it.
And also the guy who was straight behind the bar wouldn't happen. But yeah, it was just all that was what it is. Burlesque is about body shape. It's about body confidence, and it's about celebrating your individuality, really. But when I started on the burlesque scene, and I started to look around at the other guys who were doing it, and you're probably talking about maybe 20 guys in the UK. I was like, you have all got like really good bodies. You are all this classic model dancer type. I was like, that's not me. That is not me. I'm a bigger guy. That's who I am. I'm okay with that. And that was sort of what really gave me a push to go forwards with it. Because I was like, actually, I want to show this. I want to show that bigger guys can be hot. Bigger guys can be fun as well. That we can get out there and we can create just as much as a stir by doing this. And then I never stopped.
So does the burlesque scene have a lot of LGBT connotations? Does the two go hand in hand?
I'd say they're very close, yeah.
Okay.
Not everybody is, but I'd say that there's, because it's all about acceptance and about confidence, there's pretty much no homophobia on the scene. I've certainly never encountered any.
But what I'm saying is, do you get a lot of straight guys or straight girls in the burlesque scene?
You get a lot, probably a lot of straight girls. Guys, most of the guy dancers that I've met have tended to be gay. Mm-hmm. There are obviously the odd exceptions, and there are the odd few, but most of the guys that I've met have been, which is nice actually. You've got that support either way on there. What's lovely about being on the burlesque scene and going and doing a burlesque show is backstage you have such a laugh. You are all there for the night. Yeah. In comedy we'll dip in and we'll dip out. For burlesque you're there for the night. You're there to do it, and quite often most people will do 2 numbers.
So you're just going out to perform a song, like a lip sync song, and then you're coming back in again, and you're going one at a time, or are you all there together?
No, one at a time.
Okay.
One at a time.
And then you're out the back just like listening to everyone else, or you're just chatting, or
are you
watching?
If you can be from the side and watch, I tend to watch, to be honest, because I love the art form, I love the performance of it, I love the entertainment of it, so I'm like, oh my god, that is insane. One of my friends on the scene that I've known for years now, she came up with a new act, which her name's CD Frills, and she came up with this act called The Race, where it involves her on a inflatable horse. Okay. A space hopper,
Oh, okay, yeah. I thought you meant like a proper
No. A space hopper on stage doing the Grand National. Okay. While taking clothes off. Okay. And it was like the most brilliant thing that I'd ever seen. Once she just, well, this is my new act, and you're like, that's such a great concept. That's so good. I'm a little bit jealous, but at the same time...
What's the music to it? Or there is no music?
No, there was music to it. I can't think what the track is.
Was it Pony?
No. No.
How unoriginal.
Yeah. What you tend to find as well is like people will go for really great songs as well. And then I'll just come up with any pop shit.
So what's one of the songs that you would, what's one of your numbers?
So the first one I did with the lollipop was to Mika, Lollipop. Okay. You see, that's the sort of level that I'm on. Yeah. And then I did one to Katy Perry, Raw. Okay. Which basically involved me in a tiger jumpsuit with matching boots. Okay. Which ends up with me in a loincloth. Okay. And that's possibly one of my better known ones.
And where are you doing this? Because you mentioned the burlesque scene, but what are the locations?
So there's a couple in Manchester. There's one.
Are they clubs? Are they bars?
There tend to be bars, but they tend to be like a ticketed event that you go into and do that. Probably one of the ones that I think I've performed like 3 or 4 times with. I absolutely love it. Is called the Spare Rib in Liverpool. You tend to find them in bigger cities on there. So I performed in like Birmingham, London, Leeds, I think, as well. But they tend to be just like pop up one night here, one night there, whatsoever. I did try to run a monthly one in Warrington. We got some good things, but Warrington was just not ready for burlesque. I tried to put a few other elements in there, so there was like people doing stand-up, there was people doing musical comedy in there. People doing cabaret, and I was like, so we're less of a burlesque night, we're more of a cabaret night. Warrington was not ready for it. Warrington's barely ready for comedy some days.
So have you always been from Warrington?
I was born there. My parents were Scousers, and they moved over. So I've pretty much always grown up in Warrington. I left and came to Manchester briefly, and then moved back. But
really,
yeah.
What drew you back?
The flat that I moved into, shared accommodation, it just didn't work. Yeah, it just didn't work with people. So I kind of moved back and went, do you know what? I'm close enough to be able to just get in when I need to and get out. So it's never really been a massive.
So you live on your own now?
I live on my own, which is wonderful. Because I can just kind of come in and crash out and stuff.
Do whatever the fuck you want.
Basically, yeah. I was with a partner about 3 years ago, but again, things just didn't work, and
things change. Things happen.
Yeah.
Do you know who my new housemate's going to be?
No.
Your best friend, Sean Pachkowski.
Oh, good luck to you both. No, Sean's wonderful.
Well, I also live with my girlfriend, which is a plus. So when I'm sick of Sean, I can spend time with her, and vice versa.
Yeah. No, Sean.
Each give me a slightly different offering.
Yeah, Sean's great. I'm not going to obsess about him as much as other previous guests.
Oh, really? You're throwing shade. Yeah.
Just a little bit. Hi, Ola.
Interesting. She seemed to think quite highly of a lot of the members of the comedy circuit, apart from me. Unfortunately, Well, I didn't ask her about me. It's very vain.
Yeah.
But, feel free to compliment me at any time, Barry.
You're lovely, Martin.
Thank you.
I was quite impressed to walk in and you weren't wearing shoes as well.
Yeah, well,
I was like, I respect a man that goes 3 foot.
I've got heavy armour thongs that I bought in Barcelona.
Yeah.
I've just decided to take them off. Just the rubber on your feet. Yeah. And I'm in here for about 5 hours doing it. So, I'm just getting comfortable. The floors are carpeted.
Absolutely.
Usually I do this on like a wooden floor. So just to feel, the feeling of carpet on your toes. Yeah. Now we're just getting weird, aren't we?
Yeah. It's a nice carpet though. It's quite plush.
This room does not get used very often.
Yeah.
I would say, because I do live in this building.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, we usually record this in the kitchen. Today we're in a meeting room. A
nice meeting room with a scenic view of a grassy verge. And just,
Well, no, I've completely distracted myself from my line of questioning. Because you said that you were born in Warrington.
Yes.
And obviously a avid participant and found your identity in the LGBT community. But I want to understand what it was like growing up in Warrington, because I spoke to Ben Hodge the other week, who is transitioning. Or has transitioned, in the process of transitioning. And from St Helens, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
Which is not far from Warrington,
not at all.
And spoke about, again, years after you. He's 20 and you're 40, so there's 20 years difference. But even the issues that he had coming up through school, working out, being a head girl of his high school, but wanting to be a boy, or knowing that he was a boy, and it was just like all these things, all this hardship that he took on in a more accepting time than I would have imagined was your run.
I mean, the thing is as well, I always kind of feel, I guess, privileged as a way, in the fact that on some level, I had a lot of working out to do. I'm not one of those people that was born and went, oh yeah, I like boys, I'm gay.
Okay.
I didn't really know what I was. I knew I was different, but I didn't know what different felt like.
Okay.
For me. Now, the thing is as well, like you said, it was definitely a less accepting time. So I grew up during the 80s. Now, in the UK, you had something called Section 28 in force. Now, Section 28 was basically the non-promotion of homosexuality within schools. So if a kid was being bullied for being gay, the teachers would deal with the bullying, but they weren't allowed to address the fact it was about him being gay. He would just have to be left and just not supported, because the teachers could get disciplined, they could get fired, they could get sacked. When you were doing health education, you weren't allowed to mention gay sex.
Okay.
So basically, it was this whole giant elephant in the room that nobody was allowed to talk about.
And at that point, even though no one was talking about it, was it seen as like an option? Like, did you know about it even though it wasn't being talked about?
No, but this is the thing. It wasn't really out there. The only thing that was happening as well alongside this was the AIDS crisis was in full boom in there. And there was this association that only gay people could get AIDS. If you got AIDS, you would die. So to be gay was to associate with death. And that was sort of the narrative that was out there.
Worldwide or just in England?
Mainly in England.
Okay.
I think it probably was prevalent in other countries, but that was it. Not only that, if you were to see anybody on the TV, if there was any representation in the media, on books, films or whatever, it was always this overly camp person. It was always this joke in a sitcom. And that wasn't anybody that I could associate with.
Right.
So
you're saying that AIDS was a joke in the sitcom, or gay
no,
was
sorry,
a joke in the
people being gay in a sitcom,
Right.
they were always overly camp. They were always.
Also, the representation of homosexuality.
Yeah. Was always there. That wasn't something I could associate with, and I was like, that's not me, so I can't be gay. So it took a while, and it was only really from being at uni and through meeting other people and sort of opening myself up to new experiences, phrased in the most tasteful way possible there.
Meeting new people, opening myself up to new experiences. The Barrie Heap autobiography.
But just that really sort of changed my mindset, that I was like, well, maybe this is what I am. And then for a while I wore that bisexual label, and then that didn't really seem to fit, and then after a while it was just like, right, this is who I am.
Do you, this is an opinion for you, and I've had bisexuals on this podcast, but do you believe there are any real bisexuals, or do you believe it's maybe just a waiting room between sort of picking one or the other?
I think, to be honest, I'm not really sure. I think it's whatever works for an individual on there. If people want to be with both men and women or whoever, fine. It's not really anything to do with me. There is a massive thing in the gay community of
because gays don't accept them.
A lot of gays don't.
And it's, what is it, bi-erasure or something?
Yeah.
And it's the whole we don't belong here and we don't belong there, and even though we're listed in LGB, we're in the list. The L and the G don't appreciate the B. They're more associated with the T than they are with the B.
Well, this is the whole thing as well. So you can have a woman who is in a relationship with a man, a long-term relationship with a man, just because that's who they've met and they fell in love with. And then people will say, well, you can't be bisexual because you're married to a man. It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But, that is what it is. For me, no, I'm pretty much whatever people want to be is fine with me and actually nothing to do with me. But I just think...
So are you publicly saying that you accept bisexuals for who they are?
Okay. Yes. I'm fine with people being bisexual. As long as you're not a cunt, basically, is my thing in life. I don't care what football team you support, as long as you don't talk to me about it, because I know nothing about football. That's sort of where I am generally on life, that people are what they are.
Do what you want to do.
Yeah, basically. If it doesn't impact me, why the hell should I do it? It's like one thing that's actually really nice. We talked a little bit about Pride before. I've not marched in it for many years now, but there always used to be this moment where you'd walk past all the church protesters.
This is exactly what I wanted to ask you when I first brought up the question. What's your opinion on them?
Well, I found it insane. Because I was like, okay, so you don't agree with it. Why are you wasting your day to come here and
being a part of it?
Yeah. I'm like, okay, if you feel that strongly about it, you do you. I'm not infringing on your religious rights. You don't. That's what you mean. But the thing that's really noticeable is from when I used to march and from when I used to do Pride, there used to be loads of them. It has decreased so much over the last 10 years.
When you say there used to be loads, are we talking hundreds?
No, probably not that many, but probably at least 50 or 60.
Okay.
And any time that I've seen
to about 20.
Yeah, if that.
If
that. And it's like, really? Okay.
Is it because I think who was I speaking to about it? It might have been Ben, it might have been somebody else, but it was just like, I think they might be gay. I think they love Pride more than the gays love Pride because they're just always there.
What's a nice day out for them?
And I think Ben said, he goes, I think they've been to more Prides than I have.
Like, come on, Enid, put your wax jacket on. Let's take some sandwiches and go and shout at the gays for a bit. And then,
What do they say? What are their main messages?
To be honest, I've never really had anything shouted at me as much. Okay. There's been signs, and it's all the very groundbreak Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve.
Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve.
Yeah,
classic. See, for you, this is all very normal. I've never been. I don't.
Yeah, this was really interesting. I did. There was an attempt to do a Pride in Warrington, which lasted like 2 or 3 years and fell out due to infighting.
Infighting with
gays.
Okay.
Let's call a spade.
But the organisers?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Not people coming to the event and fighting.
No. Warrington's not that rough or interesting.
Yeah.
But there was this whole thing that I was promoting my own LGBT affirmative practice for counselling at the time. So I was walking through and I was like, yeah, okay. And I had one of my friends with me and like a friend of a friend with me. And there was people protesting there and they were like, oh God, what's this? And they were completely shaken by it.
What did you have, sorry?
Religious people protesting us. Like,
Okay.
Saying that we were abominations. You know, all the usual stuff.
But what were they shaken by? You had a...
Oh, no, sorry. The people who were with me
Right.
were really
shaken
by the fact that there was people there demonstrating. And they were like, oh God. And I said, no, it'll be fine, honestly. I said, just walk through, just completely ignore them. You know, it'll be fine. But they were like, I'd never realised that was part of it. And I was like, yeah. And that was sort of a wake-up call to me, actually, just how immune I've become. That actually people can say that and I'm like, great, it literally is water off a duck's back. At this point I laughed there because something happened to me before I went to Edinburgh. So I was going to Edinburgh on the Monday. And
is this story going to involve a duck?
No.
You got that look about you and I was like, there's going to be something to do with an animal here. And
no ducks were harmed in the making of this story.
Right.
So I'd gone and done a preview in the Wirral, which had gone really well, and I was like, right, I'll just drive home, not interested, I just want to go to bed. So I was walking through Tesco in Warrington at like midnight. I still had a full glitter beard and brows on.
Is it 24-hour Tesco?
Yeah, 24-hour.
Beautiful.
And it's like a big...
mega store.
Mega store on there.
People in Australia are like, you guys have 24-hour supermarkets? It's not a thing yet.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's coming. Oh, you'll get it.
I don't think we want it. After being in the 24-hour one in Salford, I'm just like, oh my fucking Christ.
You see some grim sights in 24 hours, don't you?
There's no need for it. Normal people are asleep.
Well, this is the thing as well. Quite often, I'll be on the way back from a gig, so I'll have driven, so I'll be sober. Oh God, a 24. No, there's some sites. There's people like just falling over, just fucked up.
Yeah.
And because ours is fairly near to town as well. But I'm walking through, and I'm like, right, I've got my pizzas, I've got something to drink. I just want to go home and sit on the sofa and just come down.
Yeah.
And I walked past these two guys, and I think they were Polish or Lithuanian.
Okay.
Definitely kind of, Eastern European. I couldn't really recognise the language that they were speaking, but as they walked past me, I just heard one word, which was faggot. So they walked past me and just went, faggot. And I was just that tired and I was that harassed and I had that much on my mind, and I just went, I'm sorry, I don't have time for this.
So you said did they stop to address you?
Well, it was like sort of in passing, and I just went, I'm sorry, I don't have time for this, and carried on walking. And I think that must have been the most confusing hate crime ever. That they must be like, he was supposed to be really offended by this. What are we doing wrong here?
Do you think they said it for you to get upset, like they wanted a reaction out of you? Or do you think they literally just walked past and they were like, here's a gay person at midnight in Tesco?
It definitely felt aimed.
Okay.
It definitely felt aimed, but like I say, I was just in the frame of mind where I was like, I'm not bothered.
Yeah.
I don't think I even processed it. And in fact, I only really talked about that once I came back from Edinburgh, because I just had that much going on in my head that I was like, oh. And it was like, I didn't feel threatened because I was like, that's you. Whatever.
But they were speaking another language. I feel like if they wanted to get the messaging across a little bit clearer, they might have chosen to speak English.
Yeah, but there we go. That was it. That was my hate crime in Warrington.
Tesco's hate crime. What does it? What has to happen for things to be classed as a hate crime?
I think it needs to be an attack, be it verbal or physical, that is directed at someone purely because of their sexuality, disability, or colour.
Okay. Religion as well?
No, yeah, religion as well. That's really, I think, what it needs to be. I mean, I say hate crime on there. yeah, it was somebody saying something shit towards me. Clearly affected me in life. I'm clearly traumatised by it.
He says with a big smile.
Yeah. The fact that I just went, I'm sorry, I don't have time, and carried on with my life. I was like, I've got an Edinburgh show to do.
Now, Barry, I'm going to ask you a question.
Go on.
It actually leads on nicely. We just had Jason Cook in before this.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know, I record these in like a bulk session. So although they get released at different times, it's all recorded on the same day. And Jason has a scar on his chin. I don't know if you've seen it. And he told the story of what that related to. Now, I've seen some dysmorphia with you, and you're missing a tooth here.
I am missing a tooth.
I want to know the story behind the missing tooth. Is it funny? Is it?
No, it's really not.
Oh, bugger.
I'm sorry.
I thought it got like knocked out or something.
No, it was. I think I chipped it and then never got anything done with it, and then it started going a bit black, and then it started going a bit, and then I lost my tooth, and then I was like, people were like, "Oh, you're going to go and get it replaced?" I'm like, do you know what? I'm not, and I was like 35 by this point.
So you've had that as long as I've known you?
Yeah.
I've never noticed it. Mind you, I've looked at your face for like, 45 minutes straight.
Staring at me, getting
I've never looked at you for so long.
And do you know what? The conversation was, because I've got this far in life on my looks alone. Do I need to replace it? I'm all right.
Yeah.
I'm all right. And it's one of those things that, like you say, you've only noticed it now.
Yeah.
And then we've, I don't know how long we've known each other.
I met you the first night I ever started doing
Yes, that
comedy.
was right.
And then I added you on Facebook, and you messaged me, "Sorry, do I know you?"
I always do that.
And I was like, I thought we had a connection. I was that classic first time open mic adding everyone on the circuit I'd ever met. Even if I see you perform, we must be friends. We're both comedians.
I literally get 5 or 6 requests a day.
Really?
Now, because of my day job where I work in mental health, I have to be really careful about who I add on Facebook.
Yeah.
So if I'm 100% sure that I know the
if they've got like 200 mutual... Now if I see someone, it's like 200 mutual friends.
Yeah.
I go, they're either in comedy or I went to school with them.
Yeah.
It's the only other thing.
Yeah.
And like usually I know the people I went to school with. So if I don't know, if it says England, because I've got obviously there's 2 different lives in 2 different countries. This podcast really connects up the 2 lives, because my friends in Australia will listen to this because they want to know about all the weird fucking people I hang out with over here, and they're all weird fucking people over there.
Everybody's a bit weird.
And it just merges it all together really nicely.
Yeah.
But have you thought of like a fun story that you could tell about your tooth? Maybe. You don't have to think of one now. I just thought that maybe enough people had asked you where you thought.
No, it's not some. I think it might be British politeness. People either don't realise or don't want to know or don't question.
Well, Jason said to me that he'd never been asked about the scar, and he got it when he was 18.
Yeah.
And I was like, how? It's so obvious. Like, it's like a huge scar down his face.
I'm trying to think now if I do have anything that's of. No, I think most of my scars are emotional. Do I have any scars? No, nothing.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite fat and I've got a few stretch marks from it.
We've all got stretch marks.
Yeah, exactly. But and that was sort of the thing, because I did, as part of doing the Edinburgh show, I was like, I'm doing a one-man cabaret show, so I can't just do comedy for the full 45 minutes. I've got to do some music, and I've got to do this. What else can I add to it? So I started to look towards magic and do like some limited tricks on there. So I do like a mind reading one, and then
what's the mind? Can you do the mind reading one for us now? Or?
No, because it's a visual thing. It doesn't really work on the on a podcast. But basically, what it'll be, I'll get you to say a number, and then it'll turn out that I've got the number on me. So I used to write the number on my stomach and just whip my top up.
Okay.
And
did it work?
Yeah. Oh yeah. All the time.
How does it work?
All the time. It's because it's magic. I can't reveal the secret.
Okay.
But it's that sort of, obviously, and that's sort of now where I've gone more towards. So funnily enough, Jason, I'm doing a new act at the Balloons Halloween show, which is going to be me escaping from a straitjacket while doing stand-up.
I saw this. You were like, does anyone have a straitjacket? And I was like, he's gone completely mental.
Yes. So
were you looking to buy one?
No, I crowdfunded one.
That's right, you crowdfunded it.
Because that's the world that we live in
How
now.
much much is one?
Well, I got an amount crowdfunded and I put equal amount in myself, so it's not cheap. Hence why I was like, if it was to do a 5-minute stand-up job and it was like 20 quid, I'd be fine. This was an expensive bit of equipment.
How much was the straight jacket?
I will write down a number for you and show you.
My God! What?
So I crowdfunded half of that.
Okay, that's a good effort.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I say it?
Because I don't want people to know.
Okay, all right, fair enough. It's ludicrous.
It's not a cheap amount, but
it's cheaper than a Tesla, but more expensive than a loaf of bread.
Yeah. You could quite easily go to like Magaluf for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great time.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what I've done, and that's where I'm moving towards.
Have you got it?
I've got it now,
and now
I am practicing with it, and the first time that I did it, because there's a technique to this.
I know.
This is a technique. This is
like the shaking, and then they get the arms out, and then cross the arms.
And of course, to practice it, I have to go to. I'd leave it at my parents' house, and I'd go.
You've got to go and let someone else put it on you because you live by yourself. So it's like, Mum, I'm coming round for a nice dinner, and also I need to try out this.
And also strap me in a straitjacket, Janet. That's exactly what I've been doing. And the first time I did it, my dad was like there watching me. And I've got a great relationship with my dad.
Are you an only child?
No, I've got an older brother.
And what's he doing with his life? Not getting out of straitjackets in my fucking living room.
No, this is the thing that I love about my mum and dad over the years. I'm 40 now. I've never really changed. I'll be like, well, I'm doing this week, and they just like, okay.
Yeah. Fine. That's what my parents have become like. I remember asking, what did I ask Mum's permission on? I had this crazy idea when I got to Manchester. I was a little bit depressed, and I met someone that worked in a resort in Miami, right? And she was like, come over, I'll get you a job, you can work in this resort and whatever. And I was like, that sounds way more fun than Manchester. Just rang my mum. I was like, Mum, I think I'm going to Miami. She was like, okay. And I was like, are you not going to try and talk me out of it? And she's like, Matthew, I realised long ago there's no point me trying to talk you out of anything. Yeah. And she goes, because you just don't listen. She's like, I've given up talking.
This is it.
And it's exactly the same. I didn't end up going to Miami, obviously, but, it could have been fun.
Still could.
I still could.
You still could. It's there. But, so my dad was, like, watching me, and I'm not sure if he was like, go on, fail, because it'll be really funny.
Can you get out of it?
I can get out of it.
Oh my God.
But what I've said is, before I do it onto stage properly, I want to do 100 successful escapes. So
how many have you done so far?
I'm on about 25.
Wow.
So there's
how many do you do in a session? Do you do one and then get back in?
Yeah, I'll probably do about 4 or 5 on there, just to make sure.
And how long does it take?
To actually do the escape, not as long as you'd think.
Okay.
Once you're putting the theatrics in, because you've got to sell it on stage. Yeah. This is the whole thing.
So you're saying it's not that hard to get out
of? Once you know the technique.
Can you explain the technique? Because I've seen it done. So your hands are like this. There's a lot of shaking to get the arms up over the head.
So basically, you've got to get your arms over your head. Yeah. And then what you've got to do is you've got to get your arms out the arm holes, sockets, and then you've got a strap underneath which you need to undo.
Yeah.
Now the big issue that I had to begin with was it was a design flaw on there that there's like a lip on the strap.
Yeah.
Which kept getting caught in the belt. So we've just slightly altered that.
In the belt?
In the belt, the through thing.
Oh, I thought you meant the strap kept getting caught on your dick, and I was like, I thought you were wearing the straitjacket wrong. It's not a design flaw. No. You're just an idiot.
That was the thing.
But it does strap up.
It does strap up underneath the legs, and that's part of the whole thing that I'm going to get somebody to actually strap me into it.
Yeah,
and it involves a gent reaching in between my legs and doing a belt up there.
Yeah,
which there's so much comedy potential for.
And do they have to do it on a certain belt loop? You know how there's different levels of tightness?
No, because I started out as very slack, and then as I've done it, increased it, I've gone up to the highest level of difficulty.
Really?
Yeah.
And you're still okay?
Yeah, at this point.
So the question for you is now...
That raises many questions, I realise.
Originally, what were they using straitjackets for?
Straitjackets were original. Well, I work in mental health. So there was that connotation with them that when you're going back to Bedlam and the asylums, that they were actually just used to restrain people who were perceived as violent.
Okay.
Rather
and were they
than,
laying down? Because obviously, if you can get out of it, then these people obviously weren't standing.
Not always. They might have. Had the leg straps as well to do the movement. There actually is a next level up on the jacket.
Right. Where did you get it from?
I got it from an online. Well, this was the hilarious point on there. So I made the decision that I wanted to do this, and then I was like, right. So how much is it? Yeah, okay, that's a bit. But I had to go online and search it. Yeah. Now a lot of what I found was like S&M style straight jackets, and I'm like, not really.
With like tin holes out the front.
Not
little
really
flap for your cock.
Not really what I'm going for, to be restrained in that way.
Yeah.
Which is sort of part of the material that I'm working on, basically. There is that really negative connotation with mental health, that was where they were from traditionally.
Because I've only ever seen them in like magic and stage shows. I've never known what the origin of the straight jacket really means.
Harry, I was going to say Harry Stacchini, that's not right.
Jesus, I was about to say, what are you saying?
Harry Stacchini strapped me in 1 month now. That's a whole different podcast.
Shout out to you, Harry.
Yeah, hi Harry. Harry Houdini.
Yes.
It's
pretty close in regards to the name.
It is.
I get you.
They're virtually the same person.
Harry Stacchini, Mr. Houdini.
Yeah. He was the first person to do it on stage and to turn it into sort of an act. And he perpetuated the whole myth that you have to dislocate your shoulder to do it.
Have you dislocated your shoulder on any of the escapes?
Not on any of the escapes.
We will leave it there.
That's a whole other story. But yeah, so that's sort of what I'm doing now. And Jason actually said to me, he's like, how do you want billing for this? And I was like, just Barrie Heap. And he's like, no, there's no just Barrie Heap. And I went, the Barrie Heap experience. And it's like, that's where we've landed now. That's what I'm doing now. Everything that I want to do on stage is now an experience.
Yeah.
You might not laugh, but you'll go away and go, that was fucking insane. How does he do that?
Well, what I wanted to ask as well, there's a photo of you in Edinburgh swallowing an entire balloon. Is that real?
Yes!
Because the trick is to swallow the balloon, you put a little hole in it, and with your tongue you just let the air out.
I can't comment on that because that would be revealing a magician's secret.
Right, but did you swallow it and pull it back out? Because I never saw the end, I just saw it going in.
Yeah, I did balloon swallows on stage.
And pull out again?
Maybe.
Okay. Why didn't I go to the show?
Are you asking me, did I pull out at the end?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, okay, just wanted to clarify.
Good.
But no, that was it. And the thing that I love about it, that I learned to do that as part of a breakdown, a nervous breakdown for Edinburgh, because I was like, okay, I've got this show, it's a cabaret show, I'm doing this, and this. I've not got enough variety in there. What else can I do? I don't have time to learn another lip sync. I don't have time to do another dance routine. What can I do? And I just went, I'll learn to swallow a balloon. And I don't know where the thought came from. I learned to do it. Now, the thing that I will say, it is a trick. It is a technique. For the first week, I was doing the trick and the technique wrong. So I was literally deep throating a balloon. I was getting about halfway down, being like, Now, that was
halfway down, still quite good though. That's still a lot of balloons.
Skills. I was literally about halfway down. I was like, right, no, you're just choking now. You're not doing this right. And at which point I would then and I was texting my best friend going, I could only get halfway down the balloon. And she was texting me messages like, you can do this, I believe in you.
I can only get halfway down the balloon.
And then I did it properly the first time round. I went, oh, that's how you meant to do it.
It was the whole technique. Yeah.
It was the technique that I was doing wrong.
Okay.
And then now I can do it on stage.
Fantastic.
So,
well, what I would like to say is when the straitjacket routine is up and running, please come and do my night.
Yes.
Because I think you're gonna take the cake off the lovely Tom Short, Salford's own, who came to my night dressed as an elephant with a mechanical arm and got me to arm wrestle him on stage.
Amazing.
If you bring a straitjacket and get out of it, maybe you're going to take the cake for the weirdest act of Giggle Gang.
Easily. I wonder if I could do while lip syncing.
What's a song about being like confined and constricted?
Queen, I want to break free.
Perfect. We've done almost an hour. Is there anyone that you want to thank?
God? He says as an atheist. Who do I want to thank? Well, I'm going to say a shout out to my best friend Nina Mahaffey.
Okay.
Because she has sat through some ridiculous shit over the years.
Okay. Good for you, Nina.
She's been with me right from early ballet. Oh God, even back to the Dark Amdram days. And Alice as well, who's my friend who helps me run some of the nights that I do. And once again, she's seen some shit over the years.
Is it because you've pooed on her?
No.
Oh right.
No, metaphorically.
Right, okay.
Metaphorically, she's come to a lot of the open mics that I do.
Right, she sat through a lot
some
of
shit.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I don't know what she gets up to in her private life. Yeah, she's metaphorically.
I don't know what she gets up to in her private life, but I've never pooed on her. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Alice.
Beautiful, and thank you very much for coming, Barry. Did you get everything ticked off your list?
Pretty much.
Okay. Hang on, can I read what you had? Because he's had notes the entire time. He's put burlesque. What is it? Tantalise and tease. Camp. Knowing excess. Is that what that says? Body confidence. Bear. Drag. Magic. Balloon. Escape.
There we go.
That's the notes. You seen it there first. Thank you so much, Barry.
Thank you.
Stay camp.